Did it say it's recording for you? Okay, wonderful. So once again, I'm Melissa Salazzo, and I am your Career Tech Planning District consultant for State Sub 1413. And today we are going to do an overview of career-based intervention with Chelsea Canterbury from the Department of Education. And so Chelsea, I'm just going to turn it right over to you so everybody can get the information and ask questions if they have them.
That would be great, Melissa. Thank you very much. So hi, everybody. Chelsea Canterbury. I do have the honor to work with CBI programs, but I also work with our job training programs as well as middle school. So pretty much anything special ed and career tech related comes across me, and I get to work with that and try to promote equitable access for students with disabilities in CTE. So today, one of those programs that can serve our students with disabilities, as well as those who we might identify as at risk, is career-based intervention. I always do like to say when we're starting a presentation, I was a high school English teacher for 10 years. So I'm very used to being interrupted at any point. If you need to unmute or just type something in the chat, you go for it. And we'll get started talking about CBI. So today we're going to do a quick career tech overview, just make sure everybody's on the same page, because CBI is actually career tech. Sometimes people think, well, it's just a program, it's not workforce development, but we still are career tech. We'll talk about the course content of what makes up CBI. We'll talk about experiential learning and how it looks a little bit different than what OWA or OWE was back in the day. We'll talk about some possible program models, and then lastly, advantages of having a CBI program for your students in your building. So career technical education, everybody knows, is public education. All students have equal access to participate in career tech, and the federal guidelines of 1979 make sure that there are no barriers to enrollment for students in CTE. So regardless of any of these components that you see here on this slide, kiddos should have access to participate in a CTE program of their choosing. And of course, what we're trying to accomplish with career tech is make sure that our students are ready for graduation, ready for career, college, or the military, whatever that path is, and then of course become lifelong learners. It's not just about graduation, it's about what happens after. We have our middle grades programming, which is 7th through 10th grade, our more traditional career tech programs, which is what we see at our career centers. We have CBI, which is a program all on its own. I should have on here family consumer science, because that is also a program just like CBI. There's job training, and then there's industry credential programs. All of those sort of fill the CTE course options. So there is truly a continuum of options for students who are participating in career tech. We like to see that schools are moving things a little bit more to the left-hand side of the arrow, that our kiddos are getting some more career awareness and planning in towards that 7, 8, 9 end of the spectrum, so that they're really prepared to have a meaningful track when they enter high school. Career-based intervention is special because if at any point a student maybe isn't ready for one of these other options, or had been in one of the options and starts to struggle for whatever reason, CBI is there to get them back on track. The goal of a CBI course is to get a kiddo out of the CBI course and back into somewhere else where they can be more successful, whether that's career tech or a more traditional high school course pathway. Of course, I believe that all students should be in career tech. So one of the things that makes CBI special is that it is truly an intervention program. And to be intervention, we have to identify students who are at need or at risk, who really need those interventions. So for a student to qualify for CBI additional weighted funding, they must meet one or more of these categories. They must be either academically disadvantaged, which is in the EMIS manual says about 2 grade levels behind in either math or reading. They are economically disadvantaged, which generally translates to being eligible for free and reduced lunch, and or a student with a disability. So students on an IEP can qualify for additional funding in CBI. A lot of times the kiddos who we would identify as being good candidates to be enrolled in a CBI program, they're the ones in a school building where everybody knows their name, even if we don't have them. Every teacher knows who that kiddo is. So if the student, it does meet all 3 of these check marks, they're experiencing some barriers, they're at risk of not graduating. Even as early as 7th grade, we can tell if a student is at risk of not graduating based on behavior data, based on attendance data, based on grades and performance. So it's not just for like 11th and 12th graders trying to do some credit recovery. It's a kiddo who is indeed at risk of not graduating. If that's true, if these 3 things are true, then we should in fact consider CBI as an option for that student. And if it's not, maybe there's another career tech option that would get them excited and interested in school again. So why would we place a student in CBI, or why would we even have a CBI program? If we have students who need some additional career exploration, kiddos who learn with more experiential learning, who benefit from that, students who need sort of to find that way to reinvigorate their path in learning, maybe they just don't care anymore, maybe they're experiencing some significant barriers or issues at home, so they're having a hard time staying focused in the classroom. CBI is a way for them to experience things a little bit differently than just a traditional high school classroom environment. And then it also provides some intensive intervention for students who need it. And that's very flexible based on the student need, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Again, that eligibility, if they fit one or more of those categories. I have heard that historically some schools will decide not to enroll students in special education in a career-based intervention course because they say, well, they're getting services other places. CBI is still a great option for students who do have a disability, and it provides them just another way to interact with typical peers, to receive some additional supports, and they can get those accommodations in that classroom environment as well. Again, like I said, the goal of CBI is to get a student out of CBI, to get them to choose their pathway, to improve academically, and to have some new professional skills. And then, of course, start some career tech coursework and prepare or change their graduation plan. So CBI is available to students from grades 7 through 12. Like I said, it is just a program. It's not like a full workforce development pathway where students have 4 different courses that they take and take web exams. Instead, this is sort of hopefully a one-time thing or a 2-time thing that students don't have to be enrolled consistently from grade 7 through 12. We're trying to give them those supports to have them gain those independent skills and those coping skills, supporting skills, so they can sort of self-regulate and manage that for themselves. It is just one of the many ways for students in career tech to get supports, and it can take place in any school, in a community school, in a traditional school, in a career tech center. CBI is for everyone or is for every location, not for every student. Pardon my my language there. I will say that each setting will have different advantages and different disadvantages. It doesn't mean that one is better than another. So student selection is really probably the most important part of the CBI program. And it's up to each school or district that has a CBI program to create a system that is clearly communicated with teachers, with counselors, with parents, with administrators, for how we are going to identify which students will best be served in a CBI program. I've got some schools that I work with who do it strictly on a referral basis. They say, hey, I think this kid would be good. And then the counselors will look into it and see if it fits their schedule. I have some schools that have a whole matrix that they use and input student data, behavior data, attendance data, grade data, last year's stuff, like a whole system. And then it pops out a number at the end, almost like a risk factor number. And then so they take the top 25 kids with those values. It can be a science, it can be an art, it can be somewhere in between. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. It's whatever works for your school. That process just has to be clear. In the past, students in CBI were expected to complete an application, but we found that even that word application could be a barrier. So instead, it is more of a system of nominating, and then students agree to be part of the program. And there is a sample student agreement that we've posted on the website. If a student doesn't want to be in it, it's just like any other career tech program. I don't think we would force them to be in a program that they're not going to benefit from or want to be involved in. But if they're ready for whatever that extra support is, or whatever the opportunities are that come with the CBI program based on the model, then go for it. So there also can't be more than 25 students per section is our guidelines for CBI. Teachers can have more than one section. We'll talk a little bit later about why it's so important to cap that at 25. But when we're selecting our students, we want to make sure that we're also putting together groups that are going to be successful if they're in a classroom together. So the actual course is it is both a related course, so seat time 120 hours with with content, I should say. There's academic intervention is a component, and then there's experiential learning options. All three of those is what makes CBI. Class time, intervention, experiential learning. But before we can even get into that, we have to figure out, well, who can teach the darn thing? So to be able to teach CBI, instructors must earn a CBI endorsement. It is 4 courses that is available completely online currently through Kent State and the University of Toledo. And to be candidates for those programs, those universities require that they have 2 years of teaching experience and then 1 year of work experience outside of education. I have never personally applied to be part of the program, but it is my understanding that 1 year of work experience can be flexible. It doesn't have to be something that happened immediately preceding the application for the program. So the actual seat time when we're talking about being in the class, the last round of CBI standards were from 2013 or 14. So we just revamped those and reposted them on the website that are going to be available or implemented, I should say, in the 24-25 school year. It is a lot simpler. Gone are the 54 pages of bullet points and competencies, and it is now very open-ended and question-based to fit the needs of the students. It also, to us as the department, didn't make a lot of sense to have 54 pages of stuff you have to teach when students might be in the course multiple years from grade 7 through 12. That complexity is going to vary greatly when we're teaching something in grade 7, when we're teaching it in grade 12. And if you can show me a teacher that can teach every single one of those competencies in 1 year, I will give them some kind of award, because that's almost impossible. So the new standard, or I shouldn't say standards, we also don't have a test in CBI because it is just about, getting kids back on track. We don't want any of that high stakes assessment. So it is just, again, question-based, open-ended, flexible to meet the needs of the students.
Hey, Chelsea, we have a question.
Thank you. Yeah, Melissa.
Is CBI endorsement different than transition to work endorsement?
It is different from a transition to work endorsement. It is, they're both 12 credit hours, I believe. TTW might be 13 now. But it is a completely different endorsement. It is possible, and don't hold me to this because I don't know 100%, but I believe that one of the courses may overlap. So you may be able to get credit towards part of this EBI endorsement with the TTW, but they are separate endorsements for a license.
Could you, oh, sorry. Could you clarify what the main difference is between the two?
See, the CBI endorsement is a lot more about, I think they take a course about teaching and reaching students who are at risk. So specifically those with more behavior and attendance issues. There is a course designed around the curriculum design of how you're going to teach the class CBI and what the students might need. I'm not 100% sure of the other two. But it's not special ed specific like a TTW would be, because it also deals with any student who would be either academically or economically disadvantaged.
So you had mentioned students who have an IEP before would be qualified under CBI, but would they
Yes.
say maybe for you specific student, you would match better with like a transition to work type thing? So they would just depend on the students, how high functioning they are?
Absolutely. Yes. I would say it depends on the need of the student. That's not to say that a student who we would consider for a job training program could not also have been in CBI at some point. Grade 7 through 12, I think that it might even be a great opportunity for them to build some of those skills that they'll use when they're out in community work experience. It's going to just depend on the kid.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Yeah.
So Molly, while you guys were chatting real quick, I pulled up Kent State's requirements. They take a course called Worksite Coordinator. So of
That's
course
what-
to
yeah.
learn all the legalities of having kids working and how you have to check up on them. Then a coordinator of Career Tech Cooperation Education Program. So a little bit more in depth, I think. Then disadvantaged youth and career tech and curriculum design and application.
Thank
2
you.
out of 4, Melissa, I feel.
No. It's a lot to keep track of. There's a village here.
Thank you. So the second component that's required to be part of a CBI program is going to be targeted intervention. That's when we take our group of students and we figure out what they need and we give it to them. There's not a right or wrong way to do this. It could be some small group work for a group of students that haven't yet passed that Algebra 1 exam. It could be, I always say, taking 1 or 2 of our students and dumping out their black hole of a backpack once a week and helping them organize it and put their stuff into folders. I know of some CBI teachers that say, okay, every Monday and Friday is going to be our work days where they do that intensive intervention and do grade checks and kids work in their planners and do that kind of thing. I have some that do 10 minutes at the beginning of every day. It's just going to depend on the needs of the student. I have some that chunk it out and say Wednesdays is always math day, Thursdays is always English day, and the other 3 days we're doing the content for the course. So there's not a wrong way to do it. It's truly about what the teacher needs and what the kids need at that time. Also, the social emotional learning component can be very important for those students as well. Building that in. And then the last piece that's required is experiential learning. And this is going to look vastly different based on the grade level of students that you have enrolled in the program, based on the physical location of where you are placing the program, and also what your students want to do and are interested in. All of those things can impact what experiential learning looks like. Any one or combination of these things is the right way to do it. There isn't a wrong way to offer experiential learning options. When we have kids who are in 7th and 8th grade, who are doing CBI, they're not going to be able to have a job. Students can't work until they're 14 years old. So those students might instead do some job shadowing. Depending on your location, maybe they take 1 or 2 periods out of a week to go explore in a career center lab. Some will do some service learning. And I've got a slide here in just a second about what more of those opportunities for non-paid might look like. Another option is work experience. This is where a student in CBI has a job. It's your typical, non-exciting, non-intensive high school job would be work experience. In CBI, students have the opportunity to be dismissed from school early and to earn credit for work experience or work-based learning if they qualify for those options. Of course, because we can't make it any less complicated, the work experience piece for CBI can be granted as a credit called CBI work-based learning, even if it might not be actual work-based learning as we define it under Perkins. But that is an option for students also in CBI, is to have a job that aligns with their post-secondary plan. We have an industry mentor involved, we have a learning agreement in place, and students can be also earning those hours towards work-based learning if that's an option for them for graduation. In both work experience or work-based learning, that CBI instructor does regularly check on the student and keep track of their progress or lack thereof. In work experience, it's going to be a lot more about making sure that the kid's getting to work on time. Are they performing in a way that is respectful and professional? When we're looking at work-based learning, it's going to be a little bit more intensive because we have that learning agreement to serve as the rubric that's going to be based on the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal and the different components in Strand 1 of the Career Tech Standards. But still, it's that career-based intervention instructor that is responsible to go out and check on those students. It's one of the reasons that we cap the class size at 25 is because it takes a significant amount of time potentially to go out and visit a bunch of students who are in work experience or work-based learning. If there are very few students who are taking advantage of that opportunity or they're not old enough to do that, then that instructor might be able to have more sections or teach a different course at the same time as teaching CBI. For those younger grades, the schools that are not, or the students that are not going out to work as part of CBI, there are plenty of school stores and t-shirt printing businesses run by CBI programs across the state. There is, in a few of the schools that I'm aware of, community free stores that are stocked and inventoried by the students in CBI, and they open to the public 2 days a month, and families are able to come in and take the things that they need. Bunsold Middle School up in Marysville has a grab and go backpack program that the students in CBI pack up with essentials and supplies and food, and anonymously kiddos just have to grab those backpacks on their way out the door on a Friday. All of these are great options when we're talking about creating experiences for students that either can't work because they're too young or can't work because they have other needs. There has often been a misunderstanding that a student in CBI has to have a job, and that's just not the case. We're never going to take our most at-risk students and say, you have to leave school early, or you have to have transportation to get to a job site that maybe they don't have access to. So we have to be flexible in creating these experiential learning options for students in CBI so that they can still gain that experience without requiring them to have a job for a certain number of hours or whatever the requirement in place may be. Does anybody have questions about that? It's a big shift from the old school OWA. And it's very much more about making sure that whatever the student's doing is aligned with their post-secondary goals, that we're supporting them in the ways that they need to be supported to meet whatever those other graduation requirements are.
So I just want to clarify, Chelsea. I've always worked with CBI as it is now versus like the old model that you're talking about. So for students like in a program with that has the work-based learning like as a separate section for students to leave school, go to work.
Uh-huh.
That's not so to have experiential learning is required, but to have the students actually have work experience or work-based learning is not required.
Correct. It can be
Okay.
any combination of these three things, one
Okay.
or combination, not requiring them to leave early or have a job or do that kind of stuff.
Okay. And there's not any requirement if the students do have a job of how many hours they're expected to work, or
Nope.
can local programs kind of set guidelines for that, or is that kind of
Would there be a reason to set a guideline for that?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I'm just curious, like if a student, let's say they're in school for like 3 periods a day, and then the rest of the day their schedule is work-based learning. Like, would there be like, so let's say they have like, 4 periods of work-based learning. Like, would that like impact how much we'd expect them to be doing experiential learning?
I see. Yes.
Like, yeah, like a traditional early
Absolutely.
release.
So if the student's getting credit for getting 4 credits of work-based
Yeah.
learning,
Yeah.
we would anticipate that the amount of time that they're spending at that job site would be the equivalent of whatever those 4 credits would be.
Okay. So
What
if
we
they're
don't want to do is say you have to have a job for at least 20 hours a week, because some of our students who are most at risk maybe they
Mhm.
have to go home and babysit. They don't have the way to get to a job, whatever that might be.
Okay.
Like we can't
So-
say you have to get at least 1 credit of the work-based learning piece.
Okay, so that makes sense. So if a student's
Yeah.
getting academic credit, then what is it, probably 120 hours?
Exactly. It's 120 hours per credit.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then I have a
Of
second
course.
question, and maybe you'll get to this later, but with some of the like school-based work experience opportunities for students, we have a program, a middle school program, where the 8th grade students do school-based work, and the school district pays them a wage. So the students are like clocking in, clocking out, like during their work-based learning period. So the question that came up recently is so for students that are age 14 doing the school-based work experience, and they're actually like, collecting a paycheck from the district, are they still expected to meet the federal minimum wage requirement, or are there like, I don't know what the right word is, like exceptions to the rule because it's a school-based, like it's like, I guess I don't know if WESEP is still a term
So
that you use.
WESEP is still a thing.
Okay.
We're actually in the process of we're waiting for the feds to give us our application for this year. But at this point, the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act is
Mhm.
always going to be that which is most protective of minors. That's what's going to prevail. So regardless of when a student is working, they have to at least be making minimum wage.
Okay.
There's not an exception to that. If you are employing students during the school day and they are between 14 and 16, then that should be reported as a WESEP program.
Okay, and it is.
Yes.
It is. We do report it as WESEP. It was just
Yeah.
the wage that was in question.
Yeah.
Okay.
To the best of my
even
knowledge.
If they're working, so even if
If
they're
anything different comes out, I will let you know right away. But
okay. So just
federal
so
FLSA is always going to be that
Okay.
which is most protective. That's what
okay.
has to
So
happen.
even if the students are working during the school day and earning credit. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, talked about those guys. If you're just thinking about getting started with the CBI program and you don't know where to start, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to get all these kids into different positions and I don't even know where to start. We always say to go to these fantastic resources that can hook you up with employers who are willing to either come in and speak with your students, offer some shadowing opportunities, and or possibly even hire them. The businesses that are part of your local chambers of commerce have already made a commitment to being invested in the community. So that's a great place to start, as well as Ohio Tech Prep. So for you guys, that would be West Tech Prep.
It
So the
could be-
credits piece. Sorry, Melissa,
could-
what was that?
It could be West or Southwest.
Or Southwest. Thank you.
Yep. If
It's
you're
like,
not
I
sure,
know
let me know
it's-
and I'll help you.
So it is important that every student who's enrolled in CBI has to be enrolled in that anchor course, the 25-25-25, that has those pieces that we talked about. The related course, which is the related coursework that does professional skills and that sort of thing, experiential learning, and then the academic support. All those three things have to be part of 25-25-25, which is the EMIS code for that course. There are other options depending on the licensure of that instructor that we could add academic courses that could be coded as CBI academic courses. So the school would get additional weighted funds for that academic course if it is offered by that same CBI teacher. The work-based learning, which is 120 hours per credit, also overseen by that same instructor. And there is a lot of talk about this new financial literacy requirement. And that coursework does overlap significantly with what's expected of a CBI course. So depending on the licensure of your teacher, it is possible that that CBI instructor could offer some integrated or simultaneous coursework in that financial literacy requirement as a part of CBI. Again, it's going to depend on the licensure of the teacher to be able to offer that financial literacy half credit that's required for graduation, but it is an option.
I am so glad that is an option, because if kids are working and earning money, what better way to teach them the financial literacy piece than with their own paychecks and the planning that's involved in banking? That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's already part of what happens a lot of times in CBI anyway, which is why that overlap can happen. Yeah, Laura.
Do you off the top of your head know what the licensure of the teacher would have to be? Is that like, I know it's changed, like the social studies teachers can't do it anymore?
The social studies
I can
teachers
find it.
can, but the math teachers can't unless they pass a test.
Okay,
But it can be a math credit offered by a social studies teacher.
okay,
Business teachers can.
okay. I can dig deeper, but
I can find it and then send it to you.
I mean, because I know I
Or
have
Melissa's gonna look it up right now, even better, and then put it in
Because
the
I have
chat.
two
She's
s-
amazing.
Yeah, two of my teachers are social studies, high school social studies, CBI teachers, and I'm sure that the districts would love it if they could get
my
their
gosh.
credit
It's
that way.
work smarter, not harder. I mean, especially for our most at-risk kids, making them sit through an additional course that they're already getting that same content makes so much more sense.
Okay, thank you.
And I should say for everybody else on the call, that's going to depend on the credit flexibility policy of each district too, what that looks like for them. As if flexibility wasn't the name of the game, here's more flexibility. You can have a single period, which I see a lot of times with our 7th and 8th grade students, sometimes even 9th grade students. They're just in that related course for one period a day, and that's what they get for CBI. In that related period, they'll do the experiential learning, they'll do the interventions, and then they're on their merry way for the rest of their day. I do, however, have an increasing number of teachers that I've met with that will have their students for 2 periods in a day. One is related or is dedicated just to that academic recovery, and then the other is related to the coursework of CBI. We have our related and then students who are released early to go to work. We have a very unique model where students are in CBI for one period, and then those same CBI instructors serve as co-teachers in other courses that those CBI students are enrolled in. So they're almost offering additional support in addition to the CBI course. And then there's any combination of those things in between. There's really not a right or wrong way to do it. So we do recommend for every teacher that has sections of students who are out doing any work-based learning or work experience, that they have a separate 120 hours for coordination time. In general, a CBI instructor should get an additional period in addition to their negotiated planning and lunch. They get that additional 1 period for coordination time since they're doing so much, wearing so many hats and balancing so many things for students. But if a teacher has more than one section of students that is going out on work-based learning experience, we recommend they have additional coordination time to be able to support those students that are out in the work site. So like it says, the coordination time is relative to the program design model. If a teacher is in-house and their students stay with them and they don't go out to the work site, that 1 extra period is probably going to be sufficient. But if we have a teacher with 50 students that are all at work-based learning sites, that teacher's probably going to need that coordination time and then the rest of the day to go visit the students when they're working. There's also a lot of opportunity to include industry credentials in CBI, in that it overlaps with a lot of the coursework or the course content that's offered. It can supplement some classroom instruction. It really provides additional options for students towards graduation. And I have found that most of the CBI teachers that I talk to are looking at the credentials in the business marketing and finance pathway to try to get their students some consistent 12 points in just one pathway to help them towards graduation. So some big things to think about when we're planning CBI, when we're growing CBI, developing it, it's not dropout recovery. Dropout recovery is something that happens towards the end of the high school career, but CBI is designed to be an intervention so that we don't ever get to that point. We should be trying to support students as early as possible in their high school career so that we don't end up having all of that credit deficiency that we're trying to make up. I have seen a few CBI programs that are students sitting in a room at a computer doing online coursework. And that's it. But that's not CBI. That's some kind of other credit recovery situation. So it's important to remember that while of course credit recovery can be part of what we're doing in CBI as part of that academic support and intervention, it's not all it's designed to be. It's also important to know that it's not for every student. Just because a kid identifies or qualifies as economically disadvantaged doesn't mean they need to be in CBI. If they're getting all A's and they're doing great in school, they probably don't need that additional support. Again, like not a work program, don't have to have a job, could have a job, definitely don't have to. It should be a full year program, both for that relationship piece that the teacher is able to develop and all of those skills that are required for students to truly get that intensive intervention that they need to be successful, to be able to get out of the program and be more independent. So instead of those things, it's targeted and it's connecting academic success with career goals, getting students interested again in what they want to do and why they're in this whole thing called school anyway. So big takeaways. We've got mentorships are integrated into the program, whether that's with the CBI teacher, other industry professionals who come in to speak. The new standards, I call them standards, but it's a curriculum guide. They're not standards. It's aligned with the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal and the Strand 1 standards from Career Tech. So every Career Tech pathway has the same Strand 1 professionalism skills that these are based on. It is as flexible as possible. There's no right way to do it. There's no web exam tied to it. If you're doing what's best for kids, you're doing CBI the right way. at the same time, we do have to remember that it is a career tech program. So all of the things that come with being a career tech program, with accountability and the expectations of the quality program standards, all of that comes with running a CBI program as well. These last couple slides that I have in here, and I sent them to Melissa so she can send them to you, are just more resources, whether you're a CBI teacher yourself, you're thinking about it, want to share some stuff. The new Career Connections course builder tool has a bunch of resources at the bottom that are also applicable to CBI, because it's all about career exploration and professional development for students. More resources, things that you probably don't need but might want to know about. And then my email. And I'm going to stop sharing so we can talk and ask questions.
So yes, thank you, Chelsea. You always share such great information, and there's so much to learn and about how the programming has evolved. I can't wait to see the standards, just knowing that they've opened up so much. So
they're out there on the website, officially active in 24-25. So they've been launched. They're all there, as well as an update to the manual.
Great. Do any of you have any more questions for Chelsea or for me while we're here? Take advantage of it.
Just have one question going back to student selection, just to clarify. So I understand the criteria that students have to meet to be in the program, but I guess my concern is the impact of student selection for CBI courses due to the equitable access to career technical programming kind of rule changes. For example, if we have a program that can take, we've got 2 sections of 25 students at most, but we have more than that would be eligible or recommended for, like, what is the process we should follow for determining?
And that's a great question, Laura. It's going to be the same as every oversubscribed program that we have in career tech, right? Like, I will say that because this is not a workforce development pathway, and we are indeed looking to identify those most at risk, we want to try to use as equitable of a system as possible. Perhaps we take those top 50 students that, depending on what criteria we set, we take those top 50 and we say, you are the ones we're going to offer this to. If 10 of those 50 say, no, thank you, then we just move on down the list until we're able to fill those slots.
Okay.
It is it is a weird place to be. What we can't do is say no to a student that might potentially be eligible and benefit. That would be where the equity piece comes in.
Okay. So I guess that's where, if we have a student, so we can't say no if there's a seat for that student. If they're eligible, they meet the criteria, and there's
want to be in it.
And want to be in it.
If we've got all of those pieces, which is a lot of pieces,
okay,
then we would want to support that student however we can.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, so I did put the link in the chat for feedback again, just to give us some how you thought today went. And then if you have any additional questions, please drop them in there. And then here's my contact information. And what I'll do once I'm finished with the recording today, and I get it processed, then I'll send everybody who registered for the session the link to the recording. And then feel free to share it if you know somebody else had questions or meant to sign up and they didn't. Feel free to just share it as needed. So any other questions for today? Okay, I'm going to go ahead.
Melissa, thank you for having me. Everybody, it was nice to meet you.
I'll go ahead
Laura,
and stop
Molly.
recording.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.